Welcome to Millennial Pagan Podcast. We're your hosts, Autumn Wolf
and Jarrah Stone. And today we actually have a special guest with us today. We have Marianna Riley. Hello.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. Marianna Riley is with the Riley Rainbow Family Circus and Of the Earth, a multi-award winning band and founder of the Community of the Earth. So multifaceted, fun times, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So we met Marianna at Pagan Pride a few years ago. Actually, she was performing with the Riley Rainbow Family Circus right next to us. It was pretty awesome to see these little kids performing and having a blast while doing so. And her beautiful family just entertaining Pride. But as you guys know, we're going to start off with the coming of witch story.
Yes.
Ooh.
So you can start wherever you want to start on your line. You can put in as much or as little as you want.
Okay. So, my coming of witch story is pretty long and fantastic. And oftentimes when I'm telling my life story, because it's my life story, when I'm telling my life story, I always try and tell it from a perspective of, well, how did I become a midwife? How did I become, or a birth worker? How did I become a musician? How did I become a dancer? How did I become? So when you guys were like, how did you become a witch? That was really exciting because I never really told my life story from the perspective exclusively of how did I get involved in this wonderful, wonderful lifestyle. And so I had to sit and go deep and pull out memories and piece it together from that perspective. And it was fabulous. And it brought me to a lot of emotions came up and a lot of really wonderful memories came up. And it was beautiful. But it all kind of started when I went to Catholic school. And right, so many of us shared, so many of us shared so much of the same parts of each other's stories. But so I went to Catholic school, and my Catholic school, interestingly enough, was connected to a convent. It was all on the same property, and but it was abandoned. Like the chapel was there, and that was still used, and there was a gift shop in there, but the actual convent itself was empty. So I was that little kid, and I have these memories too, where my mother would say that I would disappear and they would find me like weeping or holding on to the feet of the big statue of Mary. And I remember that. I remember just wanting to be with that statue, just wanting to not be the statue, but just, I felt so connected. And I remember every chance I'd be like, I have to go to the bathroom, and I would run to the church, and because it was unlocked, and I would let myself in. And it was almost like I was guided by voices. And I went everywhere. Explored every inch and cranny. I fell asleep in there. I would run away every chance I got for, like, if I was there for Bible study or I was there for like a baseball game or whatever, because the church was my family's like social mainframe. Mm-hmm. So we were there all the time, and we lived very close to it too. So I could just like leave my house and go to the church. So this was going on for like the first, I was there until I was in 7th grade. So all that time I was spent there, and I would go to the convent. Those were probably my most favorite memorable moments, is I would go there and I would lay on the floor because it was empty and there was cobwebs, and I would lay on the floor and I would just listen and feel. And every possible emotion that could come to a young person came through my entire body. So that was my first awakening into that I was connected on a deep level to something that was otherworldly, I suppose. And I never once went into that space though where I thought that I was strange or I was different. Like I was spared that because I was on this journey, and that energy and those energies and entities that I was affected by in the Catholic Church, then went on to I became the woman who I would see the spirits in the houses. I would go to the slumber parties and the parents would be like, we need to exorcise this child. And I was the one calling him Bloody Mary. And I was the one reading decks of cards. And I was the one hypnotizing all the little girls. And yeah, I was that one.
Just jumped into it with both feet.
Yeah. And I was totally just guided. And I remember the first time I was at a slumber party and the parents brought me into the other room because they were wanting to get the demon out of me. And I remember so clearly what that was like, because I didn't really understand what was going on until my friend was because they brought their daughter in too. And she was looking at me like, my parents are afraid. You need to do this. But it wasn't odd or strange because they wanted to pray. They wanted to hold hands. They wanted to pray. He was praying in tongues. And I was like, okay, let's pray, because I loved to pray. I've always loved to pray. It was I still love to pray to this day. However, my prayers are more about music and dance and the elements. But so they just wanted to pray. And then I was just why are you afraid? Why are you afraid of me? And they were threatening to call my parents and send me home if I didn't stop. And I don't remember anything bizarre happening, shadows jumping and bouncing off the rooms and beds lifting or shaking or anything like that. But they definitely felt I was clear and I was safe to go back and join the party. And I think it's because, that wasn't the case. I was eccentric and I was connected and tapped in. And I was guided to bring us all to deeper connection and deeper healing through our communal connection with these young girls that I had. So, but anyway, I was that child. So being that child led to not feeling entirely connected to my family, because my family really didn't have so much to share. My mother came from a lineage of other women who felt like they were witches and they were doing really great things in their life, but they were my aunties and they were all away. I didn't really have access to them. So one thing led to another, and I fell into I was a musician. So I was playing music with local musicians and they were all getting into I don't even know what to say. Everybody was getting kind of heavy and dark into drugs and anarchy and politics, and they were punk rock, right? I was hanging out with local punk rockers. I don't know if you guys are local, but we used to go to party gardens, and I was always me and my friends were the youngest ones there. We were always the young ones, and we used to always tease everybody and be like, you're all a bunch of perverts hanging out with with the young girls. But because we were young and we were able to go and it was a free license to go anywhere. We could go backstage. We could get on the tour bus. We could go anywhere. People wanted us around. So that exposed me to people who were getting involved in reading things that were just incredible to me. And then I realized there's more out there than what I'm exposed to here in Phoenix, Arizona. So, one day I went home to my parents' house, and now fast forward, I guess I should back up a little bit. One day I ran away from home and I made it to Sedona. And when I was there, I landed with a group of people who were nudist Buddhists and raw foodists. So they took me in, and I got really sick because I was eating raw food with them. And I got really, really, really sick. And I was already sick because my parents didn't breastfeed me and I was vaccinated and I had to get allergy shots every week. And my hair was thin and I had bad skin, and it was rough. I had allergies to everything under the sun. I would walk outside, I'd get hives. I was a sick child, but I had adapted, right? I had adapted so I could still go out and have this great life. But when I went to live with these people who were nudist, Buddhist and raw Buddhist and was eating raw, then I got I couldn't fucking move. I was sick. And they were all like, well, maybe she's pregnant. I was like, that's impossible. I'm not having sex. I was really young and I didn't know what was wrong with me, but it was because my body didn't know how to receive the raw food. It was too much in my system. So I had to go home because I was like, fuck this. I can't, nobody could help me. Nobody knew. So I came back to Phoenix, got back involved with my friends. And one day and this is probably the moment that my life really changed hardcore, is I walked upstairs and there was this magazine on the floor that I'd never seen before. And it was a sassy magazine. So I think I'm in ninth grade now. So I was like 14, maybe 15. And there's a sassy magazine on the floor because my mom, I didn't know this then, she was trying to like connect with me. So she got me like this teen magazine and put it in my bedroom. So I go up there and I open it, and there's this like picture of this really cute boy who I didn't know then was Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. And he was performing in Las Vegas. And I was like, my father was a gambler, so we would go to Vegas every year. I know this is a long story. It's a long story.
This is perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So we would go to Vegas every year. So I was very familiar with how to drive there, where to go once I got there, what the fuck was going on in Vegas. I was way plugged in because my parents would take me there every year. I had a sister, and they would just drop us the fuck off at like fucking circus, and they go play. And then I'd be there with like, and I would just sit and watch the circus shows. Like that's like that. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards they'd come off and I'd be like, I want to hang out with the circus people. So that's what I did when I was growing up. But at any rate, this guy who I didn't know who he was at the time, who I had actually already seen perform here at a place called the Mason Jar. But it was Kurt Cobain, and he was going to perform at this event in Vegas. And I was like, I'm God. So it's like 2:00 in the morning, and I just grabbed some essentials and split. I didn't tell my family I was leaving. I didn't go back for 7 years. And when I went, it was more than I had ever could have fucking imagined, you guys. So like, it was the 100th monkey march against nuclear testing, and the march for world peace, where these people walked. Yeah, right. These people walked around the fucking world, and they all met at the energy power plant in Las Vegas, where they had this like festival, and then 80 miles away at the Mercury, Nevada, the nuclear power plant, we were marching from the center of Vegas, 80 miles. So I think we did 13 miles a day to the power plant, where we did an organized action with people from all over the world to stop nuclear testing for the Shoshone Native American people. So there I was, this like 14-year-old, 15-year-old runaway, surrounded in all of this going, what? In the action, I just wanted to meet that guy, fall in love, and become like a rock star's wife. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's really what I thought, you guys. I was so tapped and so connected to the signs in my life that I knew that was my life right there. So wow. I know. So I show up, and first thing you have to do is Gandhi nonviolent action training. You have to do that in order to march. You have to get into an affinity group. So you have to find your affinity group of people. And like I said, you're marching 13 miles a day. You're sleeping out in the desert. And this is a very sick desert. So the animals are twisted and mutilated, and the butterflies are mutilated, and the earth is poisoned. And I'm out there with people who are like riding their bikes naked. I'm out there with like everybody from all over the world and all of their beauty and their art. And Kurt Cobain was performing at that. So I never got to meet Kurt, by the way. And but I got to meet other amazing people. But Starhawk was there. So Starhawk, she was
the Bing moment.
Yep, she was there with all of her with her coven and the work that she was doing, because as we all know, she's incredibly politically active, and this was like a huge political movement that happened it had happened every year for 20 years. So she was doing sister circles and the full moon gathering and all of that. So I was bearing witness to all of that, and I met. I could just continually drop names about all the people I met, but I also had to get my permit to cross the state line into the test site. So the Shoshone people gave us all permits to cross the line. And then from there, you would get arrested and put on buses and taken to prison. And then we'd get out and we'd go right back. And then we'd go into Vegas. Reagan was visiting Vegas for some reason. We'd all show up there, and it was just an amazing, and I was just, how do I say? I just like my spirit came into my body fully at this experience. And I was off. Like I was completely committed to the goddess and her work. And I was dedicated to political activism. I was dedicated to, not so much smashing the patriarchy, but definitely like showing up to shift things, to flip things back. And I immediately was downloaded, because there they held no space for any type of naivety or ignorance. And you got like downloaded immediately, and your codes were unlocked. And if they even sensed that you were like a danger to yourself or the movement, you were immediately educated and held as like a comrade. And so it was like this massive, it was like witch school times 5,000 the whole time I was out there.
101 to initiation, bam.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I felt like I was just being initiated. But through that initiation, I was so received because I was a dancer and I was a singer. And so much of that life is the songs and the physical expression and connection to the elements in the earth. So because I had that in my background, I was able to, and I was young. So youth is really celebrated too, right? The maiden is so celebrated and so necessary to like raise the energy and get everybody juicy. So I was just like put in this position where it was like, oh, it's time to do this. Well, bring Marianna, sing and dance and do. And of course I was just like, all right, yay. Like, I love this. So, and then after that was all over, I went back to Phoenix to tell my friends to be like, we're gone. Like, we're going. Like, you've got to come with me now. We've got to leave Phoenix. Like, forget the bands, forget all of this. Like, forget these dreams. Like, we've got to go. And my friends, I had changed so much, you guys, that my friends completely rejected me. They were like, oh, you think you're better than us? Because everything had changed. My opinion about everything had changed. Like, I stopped eating meat. I became aware of energy conservation. I became aware of pollutants and poisons in the water and the earth and the food. And I started growing dreadlocks in my hair. Like, I just was so different. And when I walked in, it was just way too much for my friends. So they rejected me. Absolutely. And they were like, what the fuck? You think you're better than us? Like, fuck off. Like, the fuck are you even talking about? And so I was like, wow. I felt like Luke Skywalker, you know, like I had no reason to stay whatsoever. Everything that I cared about and loved was like dead now, or I was dead. It was just bizarre. So then this amazing thing happened where I got in a car accident and it wasn't my fault. And they gave me money because of the car accident. And so with that money, I fucking bought a van, which is the only advice I really feel qualified to give is
buy a van.
Get a van and get as far away from your unsupportive parents as you possibly can. Just go, just trust and get away. So that's what I did. I got in my van and I split and I went. So where everybody was headed was the Rainbow Family of Living Light, which is why we're called the Riley Rainbow Family Circus or the Riley Rainbow Family Temple of Living. And when I went there to be with the rainbow people, which is also, just for those of you that may not know, it's affiliated with it's from a prophecy, a Native American prophecy that speaks to people who will come and they'll make the earth green again, you know, and this is the time of that prophecy. We're in the stages of that prophecy. So, these people like travel all over the world and they have what they call national gatherings and regional gatherings. And it's all for world peace. And on the 4th of July, we come together in a circle that's so huge in these national forests that you can't even see the other side. And we take a vow of silence and we meditate and pray together for world peace, you know, and to maintain that balance and to really bring that in. And it's an amazing, incredible thing. But I would like to say, as it gains in popularity, the Rainbow Gathering reflects where you're at in your own journey, within your own shadow and your own life. And if you can get beyond, you know, so on the outside fringes, you have things like alcoholism and drug addiction. You have all that stuff. But as you go deeper into the circle, you know, you get to meet these people who are they're magical. Like the first person I met was a healer named Water. And I was sick. Because this all coincides with the journey of my own self-healing, you guys, right? Because I was fucking sick. So I'm out there doing all this stuff, but in my own personal world, I'm like, my body is just struggling in so many ways. So this guy was like, bring her to me. And he fed me bark. And he's like, you'll get healthy enough so you can come out and study and learn and to heal your body. And I did. And then when I was hanging out with healers, there was this little old man and he was drinking from this like stagnant pond before me, from a stagnant pond. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? You're going to get giardia. You're going to get sick. And he was like, psh. if your vibrations are high enough, you can do anything. Like nothing can touch you. And I believed this stuff because I was young. I believed this stuff. So I was like right there, like learning and practicing and eating and living and, saying no and saying yes to everything that these people had to offer me. And sure enough, like I got so like vibrationally high that I was like walking around barefoot, drinking from rivers and I was fine and I was healing and I was recovering. It was amazing. This is an amazing time. So when
huge transformational journey.
It was huge, you guys.
Yeah.
And it's never stopped. It's never stopped. And I know it doesn't sound like it's my coming to witch story, but it really is because I completely put my faith into the elements and into the God and Goddess. And I surrendered and was just like, do your work through me. And the first thing that happened to me was, or I should say the next thing was, there was this young person who was like, they had snot running out of their face and they had like lice crawling through their dreadlocks and they were covered in staph and they were shunned. They had no hope and they were hungry and they caught me. They were like, please, I need food. And I was like, go to the kitchen, get some food. And they were like, I can't, I'm infectious. I can't go in there. Nobody. So I was like, well, come with me. I won't get you food because the hike was long, but I'll take you to it. And sure enough, as I was walking with this person, everybody was like, they were cruel. They were fucking cruel. I was like, you're going to throw rocks at us? What's going on here? And then that person told me about these other people who were just as sick and just as shunned. And so I was like, what the fuck? So I did. I brought everybody food. And then I realized I didn't realize anything. Actually, it was just, I just started taking care of these people. I just started taking care of these people and learning about communicable diseases and started creating a space where you guys could come and we would pray and we would sing and we would do the songs and play the drums. And I would go into these towns and get like Taco Bell hot sauce to coat their heads and, whatever I could do because I had no money. We're all out there poor. And then I realized that just by being in that level of servitude, people saw. Like all of a sudden that people knew who I was. They might not have known my name and they might not have been funding me totally, but they knew who I was and they were sending me supplies and I started getting support. And it's really interesting. Like it just
the way that it blows up.
Yeah. It just blew up. And all of a sudden I had some sort of a reputation. All of a sudden I had some sort of a purpose and a meaning. I had a space within a culture that, I guess I'm just at a lack of words. It was humbling to be in that kind of service for as long as I was, and working with those people. And I learned a lot. And that's when I realized, definitely that healer runs, the blood of the healer runs through these veins. And then, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, would you say that experience kind of shapes what you're doing with your community now?
Absolutely. So then what happened, is after that, I witnessed my first birth in a Grateful Dead parking lot. And the circumstances,
in a what parking lot? The
parking lot of a Grateful Dead show. So
okay, I thought I heard that. I needed to clarify. I was like, wait a minute.
Because back then, Grateful Dead and the Rainbow family were like hand in hand. So you went back and forth. And I was at a Grateful Dead show. And the circumstances, as all of this, it's so hard to speak to these things, because they're all like these amazing synchronicities that have been designed so that the God or Goddess and Goddess can do their work through you. That's how just how I have felt my whole life. And so the circumstances were one where this hippie family could get no help whatsoever. Like they could get no help because the phones were broken down. The place was locked up and the guy didn't speak very good English. And he was like, they had the little thing where you put your stuff in, the money inside, and he ran to get you the food. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything like this. And it was before cell phones. That's another thing, you guys. All this was before cell phones and cameras and video and stuff. So I don't really have a lot of it.
Back in the dark ages.
Back in the dark ages where we were still free to pray to gods and goddesses, but without that interference of that new, whatever that is, which is what I'm trying so desperately to get in touch with now. And I'm so grateful to you guys for inviting me on the show, because these are all steps towards getting to come into this world.
World. Well, and that's the big thing, especially with what I personally have seen you guys do. It's both with the band and with the family circus. It's such a, I don't want to say a primitive art form, but it has that root in not needing a cell phone in your hand, not needing any of this stuff. It's just being being yourself, and just letting nature take over, and letting the god and goddess just kind of flow through and show through some fun times, just being there and being present in the moment, which is something that a lot of people have kind of lost over the past decade.
Or past 2 decades.
Yeah.
This is very timely for me. I was just watching an episode of a show I've been binging, and they had a Native American character who was going on a spirit journey. And during the scene in which that he is calling spirit to him, and so it's a fire, he's got rattles in his hands, and all he's using is the rattles in his voice and the connection to earth. And I got chills at that scene, and I'm like, I don't think anybody, unless they are already of our persuasion of earth-centered spirituality, can really get that just by watching it on a TV screen, understanding how absolutely important that is to everybody and how disconnected humanity has become from that. And I think that's the real illness in humanity. I mean, obviously we have coronavirus. I'm not talking about that, but in general, I think that's happening and making everybody sick because they're losing that connection. And maybe right now, a lot of people are talking about gaining that back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Everything that you said. And now I'm like, yeah, so all of that has led us to the work we're doing now. I'm like, do I go back and continue talking about the wonderful story? Do I jump forward?
Well, let's talk about right now and give our listeners an understanding of what you're working on right now so they know what we're about to talk about.
So what happened? So my whole life has led to when I was finally done with my training and my studying, and I was ready to be like a full-blown birth worker and a death worker, and standing in my power as a healer, I guess, which of course healers heal thyself. So it was really a journey of me healing myself. And now I'm able to go really deep with everybody who suffers from the same things I was suffering from, because what I was suffering from was, the effect of being raised as a GMO child that was fully vaccinated. And it changes the way your body receives food. It changes your DNA structure and the way your body reads food. So I could eat like poisoned fake food, and my body would know what to do with it. It wouldn't nourish or sustain, but I knew what to do with it. But then I could eat healthy food and my body would freak the fuck out and be like, what am I supposed to do with this? Where do I put it? How does it work? And it would attack it, leading to an allergenic nightmare of just sickness and disease. So now I've fast forwarding, skipping a lot of really great stories, and into, I was ready to be like, where do I want to go to serve? Where do I want to go to serve? So I did some research about the United States, and I realized that the South is probably where I want to be, because I wanted to be someplace where where I felt like my work could serve. And I went to the South. It was scary as shit. It was horrible. I tried Arkansas, New Orleans, Mississippi. I bounced around looking and exploring, and it was terrifying and awful. And I had dreadlocks in my hair, so people just hated, and it was terrifying. And when I tapped into the witch world, it was heavy. It was heavy, and it was working. And, I just felt like the earth wanted to consume me while I was there. So I was out. Boom. And I thought, maybe Phoenix. Phoenix is probably... And back then, I think we were women. I think we still had a female governor then. And it just seemed like it was politically and socially, it was just the right place for me to land. So I came here.
I had a similar conversation with somebody recently. I'm from Georgia, which our listeners already know. And what you're talking about it being heavy and scary and in some places dangerous for us, it's very true. And then somebody just posted that they have to move down into the valley for work purposes, but where they are finding homes at the price that they want, it's more of north where a lot more retirement community is, and they know how that attitude is. And so they were asking for a little bit more information. I was like, well, if you come down to Tempe or Mesa or Chandler, there's a lot more of us in general and openness and just that ability to be able to connect and be in a healthier environment.
Yeah, and I wasn't looking for like I landed in Wisconsin with Selena Fox for a while. Ooh. And that was amazing. And I landed in New York with the ACE Association for Consciousness Exploration in Starwood. And I landed at the Purple Lotus in Medina, Ohio, and at Wisteria. So I managed to get to where I was deeply and heavily, and of course the Rainbow Tribe. I was heavily surrounded by tribe. But it wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted to be somewhere where I was like working. I just wanted to work, always working on myself, working with others. Healers heal thyself through the work we do with others. And so I landed in Phoenix. And then I was here and I went to a place called the Baseline Mansion, which back in its day,
I know it.
Yeah. And it was this amazing spot, right? And it was connected to this place called Christmas Star, which is now Wind Spirit. So I was surrounded by the people who started like the farm and the Desert Marigold Water School or the Gentle Strength Cooperative, like all the
farm.
Yeah. At South Mountain. So all the people who were like back then, they were just activists because of the way they lived. You know, they weren't like out to serve a certain mission or change anything. They were just fucking incredible people living naturally and with the earth and, you're being really authentic and present. So, and that's where I landed. And I ended up becoming like part of the, entertainment planners and directors of that place for, I think I was there 9 years working with them and, trying to bring that whole music festival. It was this amazing place where we would throw these festivals all the time. The Earth Mother Mind Jam, which was done by Rollo, who was in a band called the Fake McCoys. And so it was heavily tied into the alternative culture of Phoenix. And I got to be a part of that. And of course, I was one of the youngest people there. So I got to learn from amazing everything, permaculturalists, horticulturalists, vegans, people who were raising food to eat, raising their own fish and their own chickens, farming. And that's when I realized I was like, wow, my whole existence is a political statement, because I think some of the most political acts we can do in the world today is farm, birth your babies at home, die at home, and voting, of course. But
yes.
And that's what all this what all that was, you know. So I was a part of that. And then from that, I met my husband. From that, I met my husband, which is a whole other story that takes a long time to tell, full of wonderful and amazing and incredible synchronicities. And when we met, having children was the next logical step towards our own spiritual journeys. So we started having children, and then that's when we realized that the imbalance in this world, like what you were talking about, Autumn, when you were like, the sickness is stepping away from our spiritual natures as far as we have. That's when we realized how much it starts in utero and in pregnancy. Like, people in our culture have no idea how to support women during their pregnancy, and they have no idea how to support the spiritual nature of conception and pregnancy at all. Which is why we made our birth video that I sent you guys the link to, which is why we made that, because we wanted to show to people there's alternatives in birth. Birth is an amazing healing experience for not just the parents, the people, but for the entire community. Because all of a sudden, you know how we have these portal shifts, like we just went through the Lionsgate portal, and like birth is a portal that brings everybody in. And it's as much as it is connected to the stars and what's going on in the cosmos and astrology, that portal it opens and everyone within, 50 miles in all directions feel that energy. And it's powerful. And it really is, it's a community thing. It's a total community thing, energetically, especially if everybody is aware that there's a birthing woman, within 50 miles, you can really tap in, just the way we tap into these portals that open astrologically with the new moons and the full moons and so on and so forth. Birth is another like astrological event that's taking place like in this time, in this realm. Yeah. It's powerful. So we really wanted to share that and be like, hey, everybody, check this out. Check out the healing that's possible, because all of a sudden, everybody who has any kind of trauma whatsoever, it comes through when you're in the presence of a birthing woman and you're crying because, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, but you're crying because you're right back in that trauma and you might not even be aware of it. And that birthing mama just takes it all. It's really powerful. And I could do a whole show just on that, really. So we made that birth video, and that's when we realized, for what you were saying, is that, people just aren't present. There's this level of presence that's missing. Even when you're with people who are like, we're all about the present. No, maybe not. There's always some sort of bizarre gaslighting or bypassing that you could be experienced. But when you're dealing with this stuff, like, nope, it makes you present. There's no way to not become present. For everybody there. Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do right now, we're going to go ahead and take a short break, kind of get some water, get a little bit re-energized. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about what you do with the circus, what you do with the band. And just so you guys know, we do have a couple of links for those of you that are watching us on YouTube. Of course, we got some links directed to Marianna's YouTube page as well, with all these videos that she's talking about. And of course, for those of you that are listening, make sure you check the description. You guys will be able to get linked up to these videos as well and take a look and see what she's talking about. And so we'll be right back.
Millennial Pagan Podcast is exclusively supported by Patreon. Listeners like you can gain great benefits from your favorite show, such as...
At $1 a month, you get a personalized shout-out at the end of the next full-length episode.
At $5 a month, you receive a thank you card in the mail with a Millennial Pagan Podcast button and sticker enclosed. Additionally, $5 a month supporters have access to our monthly 30-minute minisodes.
Patreon supporters are also the first to learn about new and exciting updates to Millennial Pagan Podcast.
More benefits and exclusive content to come. And welcome back to Millennial Pagan Podcast with Marianna. And we are going to start talking a little bit about what she's got going on in her life right now. Obviously, you guys heard her coming of witch story and how multifaceted and interesting and amazing it is. Well, she's got that much amazing, awesome, multifaceted stuff going on. And we are also going to dive a little bit into, Marianna has been homeschooling for a quite long time. And I know a lot of our parent listeners are really thinking about, how do I do that now? Well, since she's been doing it for a while, she knows how things kind of worked back then. Remember, we have a lot more resources today, so maybe contacting your public school networks to see what's going on today. But we're just gonna jump in.
So I think one of the biggest questions is, especially right now, with everything that's going on, a lot of people have kind of been looking for resources and things like that. What is something that you've used even before all this kind of started taking place to kind of look into homeschooling for your family?
Homeschooling was definitely a journey because we want to. The beauty of homeschooling is that you get to really pick and choose your curriculum and your pedagogy and the style that you're going to work with to teach your children. And we definitely wanted one that was earth-based. Absolutely. And when we started homeschooling, trying to find something that was really focused on the truth and earth-based content was almost impossible. So we essentially had created our own. We essentially created our own. But I think the first step that made it possible for me to be able to do that was looking at unschooling and unschooling practices. Because if you try to recreate what you perceive or what you went through when you were in school, it can be very complicated and almost stress inducing, or I should say completely stress inducing. We meet parents who are just in tears because they don't know how to take their first steps towards homeschooling. So we share with them that the first step is really to do a little research on unschooling, because you're not trying to recreate the school as we've known it, or how it's known most popularly in your home. That's not it at all. It's about turning living and life into school, turning living and life into the practical applications of the styles of thinking that we're sharing with our young people. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, applying the basics. The basics are the basics. And those can be applied whatever works best for the family structure. But it's all the other stuff that makes school absolutely fantastic. And you can put your spin on it very easily if you can just wrap your brain around stepping away from that school structure and making life your home, the school. So it's like anything else it's like anything else in pagan, our new pagan culture. Like we have to flip it, flip the script and make it all about the life we're living and not about something we're like reading about that's over here,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
So would you say having the family circus kind of helps out with the schooling?
Yeah, the family circus helps out with everything, because we take the circus arts. What we've realized is that the circus arts, back in when the circus started, it was a way for families, right? I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but circus started because these roaming families did not want to separate. They didn't want to go to work and leave their children. They wanted to stay together as a family. And that's why circus is multi-generational. When you meet people, they're like, I'm 9th generation circus. That's how they discovered that they could create a culture that they could thrive in, and a way to generate income, that supports the family culture and stay in there. And the circus tent is then literally the living room, and all the families live in their trailers or their vehicles, their RVs, around the living room, and everybody homeschools. So circus, the time that we spent with a 7th generation Italian family circus really helped me to deeply under and understand it's a core family value, teaching our children at home and creating life with your kids, not around your kids or for your kids, but with your kids. So I feel very blessed to be able to have created and now have clear steps that other families can follow. If we can connect with people soon enough in their journey towards parenting, we can share these steps with them in hopes that everyone can experience this living at home and having your business and your life around your family structure, so that no one has to leave and miss out on anything. So that's what the circus has brought us. The circus has brought us a way to have that in our life and express that and share that with others.
What would you say is the most important thing that people need to understand about unschooling before they start trying to plan a curriculum?
That making a meal together is home ec, or doing the laundry together is home ec, or what else? I'm trying to think about in the beginning, what were those things that really made my brain blow and go wow, this is school. But just about how getting up in the morning at a certain time and making your bed and going to take your shower, how all these things play into I think the most important thing, I kind of at a loss for words, because I can't exactly remember how it hit me, but it was just that everything that you do with your kids can be reverted back to an aspect of formal school.
It's pretty much life as a teaching moment.
Yeah, and everything. So you want to learn about the Old West, take a day trip to Tombstone. You know, you want to learn about history, take a trip to somewhere, especially here in Arizona, we have so much history around. Yeah. So I think that was really, really helpful. It took the stress off. It was like, oh, I don't have to write a bunch of books and write a bunch of papers and
read a bunch of books. Yeah. And that vacation could be school.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Vacation is school. And that's when you get to the world schoolers, which is what we are now. So what we are is we're a hub for world schoolers from all over the world to come and stay here and plug in so that they can experience all the history that Arizona has to offer. And there's other places like that all across the world where world schooling families can just be like, oh, I want to go learn about Germany. So then you just go on the internet, connect with a homeschooling family there, and you switch, whoop, plan it out. So,
yeah. Wow. So now I know with a lot of people, especially in this day and age, there's children from many different age groups that you'd be teaching. So from your experience, what's the age gap in your children?
I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
Woo!
Wow. So you definitely kind of run the gambit there. What's some things that you kind of notice, like teaching somebody who's younger versus teaching somebody who's already in their teens?
It's just awesome. So, okay. What are some of the things? So the older kids definitely help the younger kids. And that's really, really great, like to have that ability. But I have to separate it out. You know, like while the older kids are working on their projects, then I get to be hands-on with the little kids. While the little kids are having their breaks, then I get to be hands-on with the bigger kids about. But what we have is it's a cooperative. So here at the Riley Rainbow Family Temple of Living, we call it. Here, people can bring their children where we're teaching, because my husband and I are artists and musicians. We teach art, we teach music, we teach chorus, we teach garage band, and and so parents can, and circus arts. We teach all that right here, and we have everything to do it. It's a studio here, and people bring their children, and some people stay and they enjoy other things that we have while we work with their kids, and some people drop them off, and we have them all broken down by age group. And then there's other people within our cooperative or within our community. We're called Of the Earth. It's an annual membership. And then we have a family, and the father is a mathematician. So we all bring our kids over to their house where he then teaches and has them broken down into his age groups that he works with. So that's how we've cultivated and manifested this homeschooling world. And right now it's getting so crazy because of COVID and what's happening. Lots of people are pulling their children out and looking for alternatives. So, and everything that we do, of course, is based on our earth-based belief systems. So it's really fucking fantastic. It's wonderful.
I kind of have to say, one thing that really blows my mind, and this is kind of a misconception that I had about homeschooling for the longest time, was one parent teaches everything. So I know that's when I found out about it, kind of digging a little bit deeper, kind of like what you're talking about is, no, not one parent doesn't have to teach every single subject. It's a communal thing. Which is something that's really big. And I think a lot of parents nowadays still have that misconception of, well, I don't know anything about chemistry. How am I supposed to teach that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something too, it's like anything where you have to, it's beneficial to find your tribe. It's beneficial to get out there and join every homeschool group, because there's homeschool groups where people aren't letting their kids learn to read and write until they're 4. There's homeschool groups that are completely Christian-based. They don't ever want any science and books. It's all censored. You know what I mean? There's so many of them out there. So you really have to find, and you just have to find the one that works for you. And so because we're earth-based, we're all about community, all about sharing, all about the earth. So That's what we have to offer people. And then, like you said, Jara, like when families come in, we immediately ask them, what are your skills? What are your passions? What can you share and bring to the group? And then we just, embrace and bring in and be like, okay, let's do this and help each other along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how are you working on, or I guess I should say, what kind of rights do you guys have as far as what do your children not have to do as far as like testing or such? How do you keep the essentially the legal system out of it? I don't know. I guess I'm trying to ask two questions. So let me start with, what kind of tests are they required to complete every year? And how have you gotten to give them the resources to achieve those tests?
That's actually like a multi, there's a lot of different approaches a family could take to what you're saying. So what we have done, what's worked for my family is we actually kind of have jumped in and out of school based on, there's a school nearby called there's a system of schooling called Waldorf school. There's like Montessori, and then there's public, and there's charter. So in the Waldorfs, we have a really wonderful charter Waldorf school here in town. And I have dropped my kids in there three times now. Three times now I've dropped them in there for various reasons. But what happened when I was in there is they get tested. They get tested and they get placed. They get tested in place. So that was like one way that in the beginning, when I first started this, that was one way I was like, yay, I'm doing okay. Doing okay.
Right.
But I think what we've evolved into now is you get to we design them ourselves. We design them ourselves based off of the resources that we're using, which we use like I can't actually remember what the store is called, but it's a store where they sell things for teachers. So you can walk right in there and get everything you need. The tests are already there. Everything is already mapped out for you, because we don't do online. Online schooling is really popular right now, and we don't do that. So I can't speak to that at all because I don't know anything about that. But so we utilize that store. It's very close to us, and we go and get everything that we need right there to be able to test, to keep our kids online. But to be honest with you, I think I move really slow because I go really deep into these subjects. So if my kids were to actually I'm assuming right now, I can't say this but I think if my kids were to sit next to somebody else in their same grade, I think my kids might be a little slower behind them in some ways academically, because I'm not a heavy academic focused necessarily, but they know, but their skills and their logic and their life skills are like off the charts, right? And their critical thinking and all of that off the charts. So it creates this really wonderful balance.
Yeah, of course. And hearing that you don't have to do online to get them where they need to be is kind of very important right now, because I think everyone only is hearing about online options. Yeah. So, weird question you don't have to answer because it is mildly personal to your 16-year-old. Is she planning on going to college?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All my kids hold like dreams of college for sure. All of them.
Awesome.
Yeah. They all talk about that someday. It depends. Like, I don't know. They have like their plan A's and their plan B's. And
but like they should, like any well-rounded person should have. Plan A's and plan B's and C, D, E, F.
Yeah. She may even be an interesting one to have on your show with all the work that she's doing for the community. She runs a teen temple, and she does monarchy ceremonies, and she runs a red tent for teens, and she's very involved and engaged in this life. And she would probably be a great person to talk to too. Yeah, about that stuff. But I think they love it. Homeschooling. I love it as the mom doing it.
And that's important. What would you tell parents who are starting to get frustrated with homeschooling, how to handle their frustration?
Well, crazily enough, I would tell them to hit Facebook. I would say, hit Facebook, type in homeschool groups near me, or however, and just start looking around. Because they're popping up like crazy. And I would also use search with the word co-op, because that makes all the difference in the world when you're doing it with a lot of different people and it's community based. So that would be the advice that I would give. And I would say, don't give up and find your tribe. Find your tribe within.
Yeah, I think a lot of our culture currently has dislocated us from large tribe or large communal groups, and being able to sit down and go, okay, I have a ton of friends who can do what, or even being the one that says I have X to offer, and being in that group is been beneficial for my journey, at least.
Yeah.
So so anybody who's interested in looking up kind of what you do, or kind of just wants to know even about the circus, what online resources how are they able to find you?
We have a website. It's called Of the Earth AZ. OfTheEarthAZ.com is our website. We're all over the internet right now. So our homeschool group is called Earth-Based Homeschool Collective, and I think it's Pagan Rewilding. It's newish. It's newish. This whole thing coming to the internet is kind of new for us, because we're completely grassroots. We're completely word of mouth. So we're completely over here thriving, and our online presence is like new.
It's a new thing. I mean,
yeah.
It is for us, for sure, especially because we never included it in our homeschool. So a lot of people are like, well, just have your kids run your internet. Just have your kids do it. And we're like, oh, shit, we made that mistake. We really steered away from that stuff. But now we're trying to embrace it because COVID and what's going on, politically, it's like everybody's coming online. So we're trying to take the same steps. So that's how people could find us, is the website. And then we have a page on Facebook, and hit us up there, and then we'll come into the back door. We'll come and talk to you on the back door and help everybody come and get involved who's interested to get involved. We have tons of resources here. We have a saltwater pool, because we don't want people to swim. And the saltwater pool is connected. It has a whole theater, outdoor theater. And then we have an outdoor kitchen. So we're teaching cooking in the outdoor kitchen, which has a pizza oven. And we have alternative housing structures here. So we have straw bale, and we have earth ships, and we have yurts, and we have the farming and the animal husbandry and all the fruit trees. And then we also have probably 75 instruments that people can play. So the families, and our classes are limited to a certain amount of students, because we want to be able to really go deep with everyone. So we have our garage band, where everybody comes in, picks an instrument, we pick out songs, we teach everybody how to play. And then at the end of the semester, we do a huge gathering and performance for the families. And
nice.
Yes, we have all those instruments. So we have a lot to offer, and it's all kind of been because of our homeschool.
Right. And last year, I know you had a retreat. Are you planning on hoping to do that again when it becomes safe to do those?
Oh, yeah. We'll bring it all. At the risk of death, we are still gathering. We're still gathering. So what we have right now is we're asking all of our families to make an agreement. We're all making an agreement that we're facing this COVID situation with the same protocols of mask wearing, the same protocols of glove wearing, the same protocols of where we go and where we don't go, the same protocols of quarantine should we do go. And we're asking all of our families to adjust to that as we very, very painfully, slowly make steps towards getting everything online, as we're learning how to utilize these things like Zoom and all of this. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so you've had positive reactions to dealing with that, I assume.
The online stuff?
or just getting those different changes and different protocols in for all the kids and all the parents.
Oh yeah. That's been really cool. Everybody's kind of on the same page. Even people who are like, I don't believe in it and I think it's not real. Even they are willing, because what we're offering is so big and so dynamic. They're willing to agree to the agreements because they want their children to be a part of it. They want to be a part of it. Who wouldn't want to be a part of it, really?
I don't even have kids, and I'm like, I want
to go. Yay!
Well, thank you. And I was just going to say that's one of the big things, especially when it comes to community. There may be some disagreement, but coming together and actually saying, hey, we're not doing this just for us. This is for our future generations. This is for the people that we're living with. And I think it's a huge thing, especially now, to be able to come together as a community like that and make those decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And we have some pretty strict guidelines to you guys. I don't want to make it sound like it's all roses because like it only takes one child. It only takes one child whose psychological situation is beyond what we can break through. But we don't have the resources or the skills or the time really to be in service to all children. So there are times when families come in and they're too far away from the vision. They're too far. I mean, doesn't mean to say that they can't one day sit in that circle and be in that understanding of cooperative and community. But sometimes there's this curve and what we are offering anyway it's not that. It's like, if children can't be present, if our methods of reaching children and establishing trust and self-confidence and we call it activating the sacred family. We call it, we can't get them activated, then, that uncomfortable and sad conversation comes into play where it's like, I'm really sorry. However, this isn't working out and we have to try something different. Try something different. And because there's so many people right now trying to get involved.
Well, there's different children need different things. And sometimes what you're offering isn't going to be what that child needs to thrive.
Exactly.
And it might be uncomfortable and sad, but I think it's in the best interest that you guys are willing to have those conversations where, hey, we are not your fit.
Yeah. And we want to give everybody the opportunity to come in and try and see, because
you never know.
And it's really powerful work. It's a powerful approach to learning. It's a powerful approach to establishing community. So we want to give everybody the opportunity to step in and give it a try.
And not being afraid of trying different things. I think one of the things that I've seen a lot with COVID and how parents are reacting is that they're really afraid to fail once because they're worried that that's going to set their kids back so far. I think with regular school, we've forgotten that kids are resilient and you don't have to make it perfect. You don't have to have them ready to face the world at 18. You can take extra time and do extra things. Not every kid needs it. I don't think I was really ready for college when I started college, and I definitely was not ready for the real world until after. And now I'm ready to go back, but I definitely was not ready to go back when I first graduated. And it's all these, you need to take your own pace. And I think a lot of millennials are learning that, and a lot of other generations are learning that, but it's been a hard curveball for everybody. Is that it might be this one life we get to live, but there's time. And it's healthier to take it.
Yeah. Yes, to all that you said.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your amazing journey and all that you've given. I will reach out to you again. We definitely want you to come back and give us some more.
I would love to come back. Thank you guys so much for having me. And
no, my pleasure. Was there any other resources or anything that you want to tell our listeners on how to get in touch with you that we haven't already touched?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Check out the Riley Rainbow Family Temple of Living. That's our home base in South Phoenix, Arizona. And that's where we're offering all of our hands-on stuff.
Nice.
Thank you. Jera, where can they find you?
Of course, as always, you can find me on Instagram at Hagrid_cosplay. And of course, my Twitter, which is at Jera Stone.
Awesome. And you can find me at Autumn Wolf on Twitter, Autumn Wolf on Facebook, and our podcast you can find on Instagram at Pagan Pod. You can find us on Twitter, I believe, at Pagan Pod, and Facebook at Millennial Pagan Podcast. We have a couple of Patreon thank yous.
Woo!
Thank
New
you for supporting
Patreons.
us. Yay. Tiffany, thank you for supporting us. Kristen, thank you. Ashley, thank you. Jen, thank you. Thank you for supporting us. If you don't know how to get on Patreon, you want to look it up on the website or on the interwebs and go patreon.com. We are Millennial Pagan Podcast. You can donate $1 a month or $5 a month, and $5 a month gets you those amazing mini-sodes.
Yay!
Woo, where we talk about a little bit more of like a one-on-one educational type things and a little bit more personal. You hear Sound Guy T a lot more, who's silent in our background right now. And so thank you, everyone. Merry meet.
Merry part.
And merry meet again.